Hello YouTube, this is Goddard Radio Moscow here again with another beer review for you today. Now, as promised, this one will be slightly different. This is my first collaboration beer that I'm reviewing for you. So today I have the Mikkeller and Brewdog collaboration, which is called I Hardcore You. This is another one that I've picked up from one of my local craft shops in Aberdeen. This one is from Thistle News on Holborn Street, who I've mentioned in numerous videos before. Their Facebook link is in the video description for you, so check that out if you're watching from the Aberdeen area of Scotland. A lot of nice craft beer in there, primarily Danish and American stuff, but they also get some more random stuff like Icelandic and Japanese beer. So if you are into craft beer and you're watching from the Aberdeenshire area of Scotland, definitely go and give them a check out when you are in the city itself. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just add a little bit of a history element to them. I'll do a very brief history of both the Mikkeller and the Brewdog breweries, but this will only be very brief because obviously it's a collaboration brew and that would take a hell of a lot of time to go through both of the histories of these things. But as is usual, if you are simply interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to fast forward towards the last few minutes of the video and you will catch that particular segment. But anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brewdog, this brewery is the love child of James Watt and Martin Dickey and was founded back in 2007 at a small brewery in the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland. But more recently they've moved their main brewing operations to their new purpose-built facility in Ellon, Aberdeenshire, which was funded by their Equity for Punks shareholding programme, and this Fraserburgh facility actually does remain as a bit of a beer lab for them. But they're known for being a very experimental brewery and particularly well known for their strong beers actually, and they're largely inspired by the American craft brewing renaissance. And they've got several brew pubs throughout the UK that first began opening with Scotland with their bar in Aberdeen in 2010, but they're the largest independently owned brewery in Scotland today. I believe they produce about 120,000 bottles per month that are distributed all throughout the world. You can get these things in South America, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. You can get them all throughout Europe as well. So a brewery that has really come onto its own and is continuing to expand. But to move on to Mikkeller, this is the famous Danish gypsy brewery founded by Christian Keller and Mikkel Bjergso, although it's now run exclusively by Mikkel Bjergso, and he used to be a teacher. But again, they are very influenced by the American craft beer movement, and they basically started out as the home brewing experimentation of Christian and Mikkel, and it grew from there. They basically gave their beers to their friends in their beer club, and they really liked them, and this got them hooked on the idea of craft brewing. But they actually do not have their own brewery themselves, but rather brew at a variety of host breweries using the spare capacity. They do this in the USA, Norway, Scotland and Belgium, but most of their beer is actually brewed at the De Proef brewery in Belgium. But their home base as such is the Mikkeller bar in Copenhagen, which has a variety of their beers on tap, and they also have a collaboration bar with Toul, who are the founders are former students of Mikkel's. He used to teach physics and maths, I believe it was. But again, they're a hugely experimental brewery, and to date they've brewed well over 600 different beers, and they export to over 40 different countries as well these days. So this is quite interesting. You've got two craft breweries who have really been expanding and done very well for themselves in the last couple of years that are putting themselves together and producing this beer. But just to let you have a little look at the bottle and cap of this one and tell you a little bit about this beer itself, as you can see, I'll just bring up the camera to make sure you're seeing that. You can see the Brewdog symbol on there and Mikkeller on top, of course, but you've got the little Mikkeller style art in there that has Mikkel Bjergso there and his dog, I'm guessing, but you can see this one has the Mikkeller style art on it mainly. Two people obviously having a little bit of fun in the woods there next to a tree. Who doesn't like doing that sort of thing? This bottle actually appears to have been intended for the US market. It says on the back here that it's imported to the US by Shelton Brothers from Belchertown in Massachusetts, so I guess this one was intended for the US market. The lid on this one, the bottle cap, is the standard white with blue Brewdog dog. So yeah, let's have just to give you a little bit of a history of this beer itself. This one is brewed in the Brewdog Brewery in Ellon, Aberdeenshire in Scotland, but the original, this was released back, I believe, in 2010 as a one-off brew, but it's been re-released this year for a limited period. This is 2013, but they said at the time that it was a first-time collaboration beer that had been produced that was a blend rather than actually brewing a beer from scratch, if you like. But this is a blend of the Brewdog Hardcore IPA and the Mikkeller I Beat You. So this one should be really quite interesting. Two very good beers. I wish I could still get the I Beat You to review. I had that many years ago, which was actually it was a really nice beer. But Hardcore IPA is obviously one of the Brewdog core range, but the original one was brewed in the Fraserburgh brewery. This one is brewed in the Ellon one, so it might just be slightly different. But this one is a 9.5% Imperial Pale Ale, and it's apparently, following the blending of the beer, it's insanely dry hopped, and apparently they said said it was done 2 times, 4 times, 6 times, and they weren't quite sure exactly how many after that, but they just kept loading it full of hops, as Brewdog sometimes like to do. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting of this one. As I say, very interested to try what this beer, to see what this beer's like for you. Let's get if I can wrap my thing around it. There we are. Big, actually getting big grapefruit aromas off that already just when I open it up. Really big smell just came out of that there. Let's just wrap that up. It's actually quite similar in colour to the Hardcore IPA. Maybe just a little bit lighter, but it definitely has the same sort of colour you would expect from an IPA. But anyway, as you can see, it's a nice sort of reddish amber colour there. As you can see, there's some bubbles, some quite big bubbles actually going from the bottom to the top. It's not a steady stream of really small bubbles. There's about a half finger ahead on this one here. It's a really beautiful red colour when I actually look at it through the computer screen there and see the camera, but a really nice sort of reddish amber colour there, and a really nice sort of little foamy head on it. There are some bigger bubbles in there, but that's going to fade over time, I guess. In terms of the aroma, a very fruity aroma, quite a big nose actually on this one. It does actually smell quite a bit like the Hardcore IPA. I can't really remember what the smell of the I Beat You is like, but this reminds me a lot of Hardcore IPA, but you would expect that anyway. But it's very fruity. There's a lot of tropical fruits in there that are quite prominent, but there's also some citrus as well. But the fruity notes are very complex. I mean, I'm picking up sort of grapefruit, maybe some like passion fruit or mangoes or something like that. As I say, I'm not the best at picking up the individual fruits, but it's a very complex fruit note in there. There is quite a bit of pine resin as well that you can pick up. Yeah, a lot of pine resin as well. And there are some floral notes, but there's some caramel there, and I think I'm also getting some of the actual alcohol in this one. It's a 9.5% one, so that could possibly be expected. The head on this one's just fading now to a sort of very thin layer. But let's just give this guy a taste. I'm really excited to try this one. Wow, this is really good actually. It actually feels very malty on the start when you take it in, but let's just give that another try. Yeah, very sweet on the first intake. There's as I say, as with the smell, there's very complex fruit flavours in this one. Mainly tropical fruits. You're getting grapefruit, passion fruit, maybe some mangoes, as I was kind of picking up in the aroma. There's probably more to it than that, but like I say, I'm not so good at picking out individual fruits for the beers. But a hell of a lot of grapefruit, and there is some citrus mixed in there, but the pine resin is actually quite prominent in that as well. You can feel that just in the background after you've taken this in. That's kind of lingering all the way throughout the taste on this. There is just an underlying backbone of caramel as well. It's really nice. There's maybe just a little hint of vanilla in there as well. I'm not quite sure, but this is a really beautiful beer. But yeah, as I say, you're getting the really kind of big tropical fruit flavours, just a little bit of citrus coming in there as well. The citrus is a bit in the background to the tropical fruit flavours. It is mainly sort of grapefruit and passion fruit and stuff like that that's coming out first, and it's sort of the pine resin is fairly prominent too, but you are getting just that sort of hint of caramel that's in the background there, and as I say, just a little hint of vanilla as well. But the hops are coming back into this one quite late. There's an underlying kind of floral, maybe just a little bit of an earthy character to the hops in this one. It's a really nice beer. It does first come to you as being quite a malty beer in my opinion, and the hops come in towards the end. The hops are coming in very late on this beer, which is kind of unusual for Brewdog actually. Maybe that's the Mikkeller influence sort of seeping in there. But yeah, definitely a bit of underlying floral and earthy character to this one. In terms of the mouthfeel, I would say this one's quite syrupy. It's quite a wet mouthfeel to this one. But it's got a good bitter bite to it, and the carbonation is quite soft. It comes in with a little bit of a bite to it, but then it smooths out and actually makes the beer fairly drinkable, and it really does make it quite smooth. You are getting just a little bit of alcohol warmth from it, but it's fairly well masked throughout this beer. And again, you're getting just that little bitter bite at the finish of the beer again. This is a really good beer, I have to say. It is a real shame that this is only a sort of one-off brew that they've done. I get they did it back in 2010, now they've reintroduced it for a very short period of time in 2013. It would be really cool for them to actually make this a more permanent beer, I would say. But I think that obviously, with it being two different breweries, it's quite hard to do that sort of thing. But as I say, this is a really good beer. If you get the chance to pick this up, definitely do it. If you're into hardcore IPA and you remember the I Beat You beer, this is a really good thing that combines the nice grapefruit flavours from the hardcore IPA with the sort of maltier tones of I Beat You. Really nice beer, I have to say, and it is only available for a limited time. So as I say, you have to get a hold of this one if you can and give it a try. Really beautiful beer. But anyway, I hope this beer review has been informative for you as usual. Please let me know in the comments section if you've tried this beer yourself and what your thoughts on it were. If you've tried both of them, actually, it would be quite interesting to hear your own thoughts on the difference between the 2010 and the 2013 edition. It's been a long time. I'm sure I tried this back in 2010, but I can't really remember if there is too much of a difference. But if you can remember better than that, please let me know. It's always interesting to hear that, as are just your comments and your own thoughts on the beer itself. But as is usual, please like, subscribe and share my videos. Thanks again for your continued support. You've been watching Goddard Radio Moscow, and I'll be back tomorrow. I think it's an Australian beer I've got planned for tomorrow. But thanks again for watching, and I will catch you then. Cheers.